or liberation just have vastly different understandings of what liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews, your one-stop shop for in-depth commentary and discussion. Usually on this week's Star Wars comics. We'll get to what we're doing instead, but it is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. It's the 41st week of comics in 2025. I'm Matthew, coming from Underworld North Studio here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and we're doing something a little different. Chris is on his way to New York City for New York Comic Con, which starts tomorrow. Sadly, I am not there, but I'm here. We're chatting comics, chatting about all sorts of things. We're gonna do a kind of a dive into the changing comic book industry overall and give some context, and then think about what it means for Star Wars comics. Before we get to that, get to some plugs out of the way. You can follow us on Blue Sky at the Tractor Beam .bisky.social. I like to call it that, the Tractor Beam at Blue Sky. Also for Instagram and Twitter and Threads and all that. They're also on Blue Sky. Follow the flagship at the SWU. They're more active on those other channels and doing lots of comics and books news as well. Also, if you're interested in everything Chris is up to, he is over at Star Raptor on Twitter, StarRapter, and youtube.com/StarRaptor, StarRapter. He does have his recaps of today's comic books up there, so do check that out if you're curious. Also, if audio is more your speed, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, YouTube podcasts, and all that. So just search the Tractor Beam Star Wars Comics Reviews for that. I will have this episode right after we record tonight, right after we're done going live tonight. Also, we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network, and here on the Underworld YouTube channel, we have super chats. We have YouTube memberships. So if you comment in the discussion, we're happy to get to the comments as best we can, as soon as we can. If you super chat us, we will get to them immediately because we're grateful for any support you are willing to provide to the channel and the network. Also, the Star Wars Underworld Discord server, great community, having game nights, movie nights, D&D nights, different things. So check out the link in the description down below. All right, quick plugs. Got them out of the way. 3 minutes, because again, as I said, we're doing something quite different. Back when I lived in Edmonton, out in Alberta there, I would go to a great store called Variant Edition Graphic Novels and Comics, and always loved everything they were doing. And I'm going to bring in the owner and founder, Mr. Brandon Schatz. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Pretty good. I forgot to mention Schuster Award winning and Eisner nominated Brandon Schatz.
Yeah.
That's a big deal there. And Eisner nominated, we were saying off camera, for your comic book writing, for your coverage of the comic book industry. And so that's why I'm like, okay, get this guy on, because whenever something wild hits the fan in comics, I'm like, okay, what does Brandon have to say? So
yeah.
Thank you for coming on. How are things out west, and how are things in the comic book industry right now?
Things out here are pretty good, honestly. We're seeing a lot of new faces coming through the store, which is really nice. And comics industry wise, everything's kind of settling down from Diamond's bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I say kind of because there's still some bonus stuff happening at the moment that is still pretty wild. A lot of people have not been paid.
Right. That's in an industry, in a business, that's a big deal. yeah. So there you go. Let's get into it. Kind of the plan here. Want to chat about kind of the basics of comics distribution, just to set the stage, because just in case I have this wrong, but from what I understand, Marvel, DC, I mean, in our case, Marvel and Dark Horse especially, they have the license from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm. They write the stories, they have the. I mean, they are the ones who print the comics. And they send it over to used to be called Diamond, this corporate company called Diamond that had this monopoly, and in their massive warehouses, and then they'd get trucks will pull up and send it. There was there used to be a warehouse over there in Edmonton. There was a warehouse here in Toronto. Now those are
There was a warehouse here in Edmonton.
I thought there was there? Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a warehouse out there in Edmonton. Grabbing Western Canada. I'm guessing also probably Montana and Idaho and them too, or possibly.
I'm assuming so. I know Edmonton for sure because some of the older comic store retailers will talk about times when they could truly, if they were out of a book, phone the warehouse and be like, "Do you have any copies? I'm on my way."
That'd be so nice. That'd be great. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, those were the days. And now, as we're going to go into the story of those warehouses are gone, there are no major comics warehouses in Canada, from what I understand. At least Diamond doesn't have any.
Diamond doesn't have any.
Yeah. So, and literally, they load them on the trucks and the trucks go to each different store and say, "Here's what you ordered, and here's your thing," and then it's up to you guys to actually sort them into pull lists and different things. But yeah, it's a not terribly complicated, it seems, but with different publishers and different things, I guess logistical nightmares ensue. Did I get that right? Is that more or less the gist?
Yeah, Diamond used to be basically everything for the comics industry for about 3 decades. 25 years for sure. They were like about the only distributor that you could order single issues from.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened and they made some bad moves.
There you go. So, and also to say, I mean, there was always, I remember you talking about having a rep from Diamond, having a good relationship with them. Despite having monopoly, they still, I mean, for 25 years seemed to be reliable. I never had a problem getting my books.
As I've discovered, there were a lot of things that Diamond did well that might not have been perceived as well, just because of they were the only game in town. So if something screwed up, you'd be like, "Oh, Diamond."
Yeah.
But a lot of those things are true of any of the distributors that have kind of popped up since. I would say one of the more interesting parts about Diamond, when they were like full on doing distribution, that nobody realized until distribution kind of split off. What Diamond would do is when the publishers would send their data to them and say, like, this one's called Star Wars Journey to Force Awakens, Shattered Empire.
Right.
Marvel and a whole bunch of different publishers. I remember that one specifically because it was like so long. A lot of times publishers, when they were sending in their information and their data, they would not, from month to month, call a book the same thing. So that one, since it was so long, would have different abbreviations so that it would fit in the data fields. And Diamond would make sure that whatever was sent ended up being uniform for a series. Whereas now Marvel sends that information through Penguin. Penguin says, "Thank you for that information," and they do not touch it. They do not change it. And so a lot of people were asking Diamond why, or sorry, asking Penguin why when the data would come in, they'd be called different things. And they were like, "Well, that's because that's what the publisher called it. Like, we don't touch that data." And it was something that Diamond was just doing quietly. They just didn't mention that they were just keeping data clean.
I mean, the drawbacks of having a monopoly, like you toot your own horn. It's harder to toot your own horn there. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking
in comparison to who, right?
Yeah, it's true. I'm thinking right now. I mean, the Dark Horse Heroes has Star Wars, Hyperspace Stories, Bad Batch, Rogue Agents that's coming out. That must be fun for you guys. I don't know. I forget. Is Dark Horse there also? We'll get to the story too. They're also with Penguin now, right?
They are indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So it's I can imagine that being quite the headache on your end, just to make sure, and your customers' end as well. Okay, let's jump into the story then. You mentioned COVID, and of course, we all know what happened with COVID. In the world generally, but what was Diamond's response to COVID, and what kind of things did they do, and what was, let's start with DC's response, and then of course to Marvel and Dark Horse.
Yeah, the kind of domino effect that ended up happening. I wish I had the exact dates in front of me, but I do know that sort of late March or mid-March, Diamond sent an email to retailers just being like, hey, this is the last shipment you're going to see for the foreseeable future.
So it's 2020 or 2021? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, 2020.
2020, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In the depths, when there was like non-essential shutdowns and all that kind of stuff. Diamond basically said that, hey, like this shipment that you're getting is the last shipment you're going to see. And now, somewhat coincidentally, the Friday after that, because we got that message on a Tuesday, Alberta did a non-essential shutdown, which meant people couldn't come into the store. And they wouldn't be able to see the single issues, right? Like we wouldn't be able to put them in front of people properly. So Diamond then spent almost 2 months, maybe 2 whole months, not delivering single issue comics. In that time, DC Comics, who had actually had their contract with Diamond run out, and they were kind of like operating almost on a handshake deal, as they were like hammering out details. They were hearing from a lot of retailers that they needed product. They needed product to make money, to continue to survive. Some of them were like online dealers, the people who would sell on their websites and whatnot. And so DC reached out to Midtown Comics in New York and Discount Comic Book Service. I can't remember where they're based exactly, because I think they have a couple warehouses. And they were basically the two biggest online merchants of comics. There was actually a leak that Diamond had a little while after this that sent the volumes that every store did in a big data sheet to a whole bunch of stores. So they basically found out who was ordering what dollar amounts. And they were by far like 1 and 2, probably responsible for, I want to say, at least 30 to 40% of the comics market to retailers, basically. So when DC was like, well, Diamond's the only distributor, who else is big enough to maybe handle distribution? Well, you go to the people who are handling a huge chunk of the distribution of comics anyways, the number 1, number 2 sellers. So long story short about that, both of them started out distribution systems. Midtown Comics wrapped theirs up after sort of like the trial contract wrapped up, and Lunar's carried on. And Lunar is now one of the 2 biggest distributors of comics right now. The other one is Universal, which is actually based in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver.
Really? I didn't know that. There we go. So, and saying Lunar, that's for North America, or?
So Universal started out just being a wholesaler. So they were getting their books from Diamond, from Penguin, and from Lunar, basically. Over time, DC made Universal a full distributor, so that they would just be grabbing books themselves. And since the collapse of Diamond, they've taken on a lot more comics publishers as the first point of distribution, which is good, because I was looking this up while everything was happening with all the distribution stuff. DC gets their comics printed at 2 different printers that are both like 1 hour and 2 hours away from their Montreal warehouse. So they truly just send trucks to pick up their books and then bring them to the warehouse.
All of North America's DC Comics are in Montreal or in Quebec.
Yep.
Yeah.
For
I
the
honestly
entire
didn't know
industry.
that. That's wild.
Yeah.
Probably good time for it to be Canadian content, if you will. Love it.
Most published single issue comics come from like Montreal, basically.
Yeah. Should have Montreal Comic Con be the next center of comic book industry? I don't know. Can see that happening. So you think so? DC jumped ship, and
They were the first to jump. Yeah.
And what is so first of all, what is the market share that they take out of Diamond, and what do Marvel and Dark Horse do in response to that?
I would say that at the time, DC was probably responsible for about 30 to 35% of the industry.
That's massive.
Yeah. And when they started, they actually were doing Lunar and Diamond, and the third distributor. And then Diamond was not functioning all that well, and so they ended up ceasing working with Diamond. And so that chunk had to leave Diamond. A short time later, Marvel did a deal with Penguin Random House, and this was a fairly sizable deal because in this kind of partnership that they made, it was a commitment for Penguin Random House to the comics industry, the direct market. They took the time between the announcement and full distribution to completely renovate one of their warehouses in the States to be the hub of all single issue distribution. So like if we order graphic novels, they actually come from a different warehouse than the single issues. And shortly after that, I believe IDW was the next one to announce that they were jumping ship, and then it was Dark Horse. And the Dark Horse one, it's kind of funny. I was going through my old emails recently. The Dark Horse one was when Diamond started to be petty about these companies leaving.
Yeah.
And when they sort of released a statement of like, yes, Dark Horse did announce that they're leaving or whatnot. But in that email, they were just like, but just so you know, Dark Horse accounts for a negligible amount of our actual share of what we sell through Diamond. So really, it's not going to affect us at all. Right. Except it was in corporate speak, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild. But during all of this, and this is the important part for the bankruptcy, during all of this, Diamond was still able to be a wholesaler, like a sub-distributor. So they could order things from Penguin and warehouse them themselves, basically. And so they've been doing that for a while, a fair amount of no incident. And then little things started happening. I know a comics retailer late last year realized that they weren't getting any of the graphic novels that they'd ordered through Abrams, and I want to say that's through Hachette. No.
So that sounds familiar. Something like that.
Hachette or HarperCollins or whatnot. But that's things like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is like still a huge book. Basically, they're like, oh, we haven't been getting books from them for a while. What's going on? And the rep from like Abrams and them said like, oh, Diamond hadn't paid them for months, and so they weren't sending them books. Yeah. Which was kind of the first clue as to something was going on. Around that time, Diamond also moved, shut down. I say shut down. Diamond moved down to one warehouse. Now, this was right before the Christmas season.
This is late last year, right?
Late last year.
Yeah.
It caused all kinds of havoc. because it entirely also changed the way that Canadian stores got comics. What Diamond used to do was they would send all of the comics for Canada in one big shipment up here to Toronto.
Right.
And from there, they would go to all these drop points. And Edmonton had a drop point. We'd go pick stuff up. So when they shut this place down, they shut down almost all of their drop points. Well, they did all of their drop points in Canada, and then most of them in the States disappeared. And this was a rough transition because we were getting books from them like 2 to 3 months late. No, sorry, not months, weeks.
Still.
And a whole bunch of retailers, just due to inertia or whatnot, or who didn't want to build up a Penguin account or anything, were still ordering their Marvel, their Dark Horse, etc., through Diamond. And everyone was getting their books late. And then kind of through the holiday season into January, I think end of January is when they announced their official bankruptcy. And it's been absolute craziness ever since, including owing Penguin Random House a lot of money for books that they distributed.
Yeah. So, I mean, that tells the story pretty concisely. Yeah. That, I mean, even 2 to 3 weeks for at least the core consumers who want to, or core fans. I don't want to use just the consumers. We're fans here. We're following these stories. We're following, in our case, my case here, we're following this integrated IP, this canon, and we'll get to that later on. But I do remember High Republic books being delayed, and that had to line up with the novel. The comics having to line up with the novel, and of course, High Republic is its own kind of beast that caused that kind of problem. Although I love it because it's so integrated. But
I would love to talk with you about what you think the structure of the High Republic stuff was in terms of like how they had to release by certain dates.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, in terms of kind of like why they, well, I mean, yeah, because that's the thing. You had, I can't quite remember. Definitely stories we know. Well, I had to straight up ask Daniel Jose Older on Blue Sky, like, okay, should I hold off on reading this comic before I'm finished this novel, even though it comes out? One thing that was kind of interesting was at the very end when the finale of well, so here's a spoiler for the end of the High Republic. I don't know, whatever. When in the Battle of Ariadu, you have in the Dark Horse High Republic Adventures line, the Battle of Ariadu, and the battle's going not too great for the good guys, and General Weiss and the Warden are about to level the city, and then all of a sudden the storm wall falls, and our Jedi fleet's able to come in. And I'm like, wait, what? How did that happen? Now I do wonder. So here's the real question: was that purposely delayed? Was that answer purposely delayed for Trials of the Jedi, the novel by Charles Soule? Were there some other distribution things there happening? One thing, I mean, Claudia Gray's Quest of the Jedi one shot. I mean, that got delayed, I think, for maybe behind this like actual creative reasons, but yeah, it must have affected. I definitely know it did affect some things. Well, what would happen? I think the thing that happened most is you get bunching, where you'd have comics. I mean, Dark Horse is still, for some reason, there's still concerns with Codebreaker, Poe Dameron comic. That number 4 keeps getting delayed for different reasons, but you'd have bunching where you would
three issues would come up in 3 weeks from Dark Horse.
Well, or 3 in 1 week, and in
right.
High Republic, like when do what order we read this in? And that's what I had to ask Daniel Jose Older for, because things got moved. again, I don't know if that's because of Diamond, or if it's because and Dark Horse saying, well, we don't know if Diamond's gonna be able to get you these books in time, so we're gonna say the release date is this, or if it was actual creative delays from Team Luminous and Dark Horse's side. I don't know, but I don't know if do you have any insight on that one?
Not entirely, outside of just sort of like observing kind of their schedule of things, and then seeing it was clear that there was some kind of mandate of just like, all right, these dates need to be hit. And so I remember Dark Horse in particular, near the end of phase 2, their main High Republic Adventures book. That's the time I was referring to, where it was just like last 3 issues were 1 week, next week, next week. Because it was clear, it was like, if given their own choices, they would have released those monthly.
Yeah.
But they were late enough that there was some mandate that was like, all right, get them out now because this needs to be done by this date.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, just given path of deception. No, path of vengeance with the Night of Thousand Tears, and that's, I mean, because the way High Republic is structured, there's this big climactic event that happens, and so I think the phase 2 High Republic Adventures comics, maybe not so much connected to that, but certainly the Sav Maligan story needs to come to a conclusion, because I mean they got to jump into phase 3 eventually as well. So that's part of it. So that'd be something. I mean, I'm kind of speculating a little bit here, but and kind of reaching back into my memory, but it's a good question. I should maybe do a little bit of a search, do a bit of digging, I mean, to see why those delays happen, different things. But yeah, I mean, that kind of brings us to I guess to the not quite the present, but bringing it back to the real world conversation of the bankruptcy. And maybe because what I'm still a little unclear about is, or maybe I'm only vaguely clear. So because DC and Marvel pulled out, and from what I mean, that's already a massive market share, massive dollar amounts going not to Diamond but to Penguin and to Lunar. Is it also the fact that they closed down all their warehouses and drop points, and so shipping costs and logistics costs and staffing, did that also multiply, or was it also just personnel and figuring out the logistics, or what?
Our shipping costs went wild. They were pretty steep, especially considering what we were actually ordering from Diamond was like next to nothing near the end. But like I said, a lot of stores were like pushing through with Diamond, and so even though Marvel, when they left, would have been about 40% of the market, so you're looking at 75% of the market that didn't go through Diamond specifically. Still, a lot of stores were going through Diamond for one reason or another, so they did retain a significant amount of customer base, but at a certain point, the volume just wasn't sustainable for them, especially with the type of business that they really focused on. So for graphic novels, every prose distributor distributes graphic novels. Most big publishers, all big publishers now in comics, and most comic publishers in general do have an outlet to the book market. And in the book market, those distributors, Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, Schatz, etc., they have ordering structures where shipping costs are $0 to retailers.
Wow. Okay.
And that math by itself meant that I rarely ordered graphic novels through Diamond, because the shipping costs would far outweigh any little extra percentage I was getting from them, basically. And in some cases, I was getting a worse percentage anyways, and then charging for getting charged shipping on top of it, right? And the comics market itself, if you kind of look at where a lot of the sales are generated, at least for the industry, and not including the back issues. You can't really measure how well back issues are selling because there isn't a centralized sales hub for that. But like modern new comics, the most money being generated is from graphic novels. And Diamond, when they had a stranglehold on the graphic novel industry, on single issues, they refused to invest in that part of the company. They kept focusing on the single issue market, even as the single issue market is becoming more of a specifically collector's market, especially at the price point for single issues, versus collected editions and manga and all that kind of stuff. Like in Canada, we're spending a chunk of change for those Star Wars books, like $4.99 minimum American with the exchange rate net right now is not great. Especially when you're looking for bang for your buck, right? So that's a big part of what ended up leading to Diamond's downfall. Is just they weren't ever looking forward. They were always looking to the past. Within the past, was it 5 or 6 years, Diamond also had a big crash. And their entire website, their network went down. And apparently one of the reasons why was because they were still operating off of like Windows 98.
Really?
Into like the 2010s.
That's baffling.
And yeah, the system ended up going down because it was quite easily hacked. Like they had to rebuild their entire systems.
Yeah.
That was Diamond. That was how they rested on their laurels. They figured the good times would never end, and you can't run a business that way.
I mean, like monopolies again are bad for the actual monopoly, ultimately, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, fostering a culture of lack of innovation. I mean, again, I mentioned culture of good customer care, but ultimately, not being able to provide the product that you need effectively of, well, the service at least of a quality distributor. I remember when specifically when you changed the name of the store from variant edition comics and graphic novels to graphic novels and comics. I mean, it's good to know that, and for that reason, because you were looking ahead and saying, okay, this is where the industry is going. I mean, this is a bit of an aside, because I didn't know that that's still the primary. That's already now become the primary market share is collected editions. It makes sense. Lots of folks want to be able to sit down. I sometimes have trouble remembering what happened in a comic last month. Even I do. So I get it, but like it seems to me at least that the single issue market is sustainable enough. Is that a fair statement? It's just smaller than maybe what it was.
Yeah, and basically you kind of see the practices that are in place for a reason. So like you're not often seeing, although the Dark Horse ones are a bit of an exception, but for Marvel, those Star Wars books are coming in with 4 covers minimum, right?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And that's a bit of the collector's market of it. Like they are relying on those extra sales to make sure the book is profitable enough for them to keep doing them. Because like one of the weirder things too is despite the fact that Star Wars and Marvel are owned by Disney, Marvel still technically licenses out the Star Wars books, so money comes out of their bucket to be able to produce those books still. And so at the end of the day, their bucket still needs to refill that money and then some on the line, which is kind of why you get these line refreshes every now and then, which I kind of actually want to talk to you a little bit about too. So like Marvel's done essentially 3 line refreshes since the start, and they do it from the sounds of it in the chunks that they have licensing for. So like the first one was about 5 years, and that was in between episodes 4 and 5. The second one was about 5 years in between 5 and 6. This one feels so much more scattered in terms of focus. How do you feel about
Yeah.
sort of how they've developed the current line?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think and what we often say, well, we're starting to say on this podcast is this definitely feels transitional. We thought it was going to be Battle of Jakku to whatever season 1 of Ahsoka or whatever. We thought that's what it was going to be, but I've started finally paying attention to the solicits because just to see what isn't on there, and say the Afro run is going to end. We have, I mean, that's another thing with collected editions. We see on the Penguin site there's collects 1 to 10. It's just the New Republic is ongoing by Alex Segura, and Alex is not on the publishing panel at New York Comic Con. So which is, I think it's too bad. I actually enjoyed that book, but it's true. It's not. It's unclear. You're right, and also to say the Vader comic is set in between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. It's fantastic. It's probably the best performing one. It's certainly the best quality as a story because it's Charles Soule writing about Kylo Ren and Darth Vader. I mean, how can you go wrong there? But just a story people are still interested in. And again, I'm starting to say I think they misjudged. This is my prequelist hat coming on here. I think they misjudged the appetite for original trilogy era stories still. I think this is my I'm gonna keep manifesting this onto the internet. The time is right for Obi-Wan Anakin Star Wars and going, give us that Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones. I think that will, I mean, the variants alone, sure, like you said, will sell like hotcakes. But I think those of us who are now old enough to, the prequel generation has come. We say this all the time, right? The prequel generation has come of age.
Oh yeah,
we're the major part of the industry or part of the fandom now. So yeah. Also to say, I mean, this is another weird thing. This is a bit of an aside, but relate to the variants question. I mean, what thing we see also is the only reason why the Mandalorian adaptations and the Ahsoka adaptations do not add any story. The only reason they're doing it is for variants. And so that's an unfortunate kind of blatant thing. The one time I did anything like that is like I wanted to get the Anakin Ahsoka one because I love that episode. Episode 5 of Ahsoka season 1, and I got the first appearance of Carson Teva because he's in our neighborhood. He's in Toronto, so that's it. But yeah, it's I'm wondering again. The publishing panels on Saturday. See if something comes of that. Maybe, but yeah, I agree. It does feel now. At the beginning, it felt, oh yeah, this might be going something. This might be where it's going. I think also I don't know. It's kind of weird. Maybe they got the green light from Lucasfilm to do this. Obviously, they had to.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we know that Filoni in Ahsoka season 2 is going to be heavily New Republic and so heavily Mon Mothma, maybe Leia, or maybe at least Leia in the Filoni film, and so the Thrawn New Republic film, and so they want to say let's hold off on writing more stories. It's odd that they gave the green light to start. If that's the reason, I'm speculating here, but if that's the reason, then to pull back. I mean, there aren't any novels announced in that era. The only novel I can remember in that era is Last Shot by Daniel Jose Older. Again, that came out a while ago, so a number of years ago. So yeah, it definitely feels. I mean, I also think they were just maybe seeing what sticks. Like I'm guessing the Afric book the Afro book only started to get good in the last issue. Started getting interesting because it was like, here's Luke, here's Han, here's Chewie. Oh, and now here's her sister. Oh my goodness, she has a sister. So yeah, kind of throwing up the pieces and seeing what sticks, and things just weren't necessarily sticking. I don't know if that resonates with what you're seeing on the ground too, but yeah,
100%. Like this, the current line outside of, I would say, the regular Star Wars book, which is maintained, and Legacy of Vader.
Yeah,
like it's really hard to get traction for any of the books right now, honestly.
Like including the Afra.
Yeah, that was a bit harder. And like our clientele is more predisposed to more like a Dr. Afra kind of style story. And yeah, it's just, I think without, part of it is just sort of like without a concise, like it's these are taking place here and it matters to X, Y, and Z. Like there isn't that line clarity. I think there isn't sort of like a core focus to the line, and so then that splits off people's interests, and they're like, oh, well, I'll just stick over here, and I don't need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate in that, I mean, Alex Segura has a plan. Like we know, like the Luke Han story, Luke Han Bylert story, and the Leia Mon Mothma story are, I mean, we already know that how they're coming together, and they are going to come together. It just maybe needed to be a little clearer from the start. I mean, that's the challenge of writing a less accessible story that might be more subtle and more nuanced, but I don't know. I mean, probably gonna have Joel in the comments here. So Joel is my other podcast partner. How's it going, Joel? I mean, he's got a question. I mean, this kind of gets gets at what we were saying about legacy characters or original trilogy characters. I mean, specifically, you know, I mean, there haven't been too many prequel era characters, but maybe overall, then, you know, do you find you have better sales when it's well, let's just say, I mean, like the Afra run, Alyssa Wong's Afra run, versus the Darth Vader run, versus the ongoing run. I mean, my sense is those were pretty even, but I don't know what your sense was.
Yeah, so they're definitely an easier sell. And truly, for me, it's for some of the Star Wars stuff, like the ability to self-sell is a huge thing, and yeah, it's easier to do with legacy characters. I also agree with you specifically that now is the time for the prequel comics. That's where the buying power is right now from folks, and you guys have probably seen the discourse change online regarding those movies too, because it used to be just sort of a thing that people would just easy clown on, and now you actually have a whole bunch of people who are just like, well, I grew up here, like these are my stories, and holding those movies in higher regard than what seemed to be culturally in the ether, right? So yeah, the trick with the original characters is like, if there's not a good pitch within there, other than like it's the next Dr. Afra set, there wasn't really anything different to sort of like sink some teeth into in terms of that. That becomes a harder sell, because you can't just be like, hey, Yoda's here, you know, like and here's this focus. Yeah, you end up fighting a tougher uphill battle. But that honestly is with like any property, any comics, any Star Wars, Star Trek. Like if you're hitting some more obscure concepts, that pitch that you have, that story that you have, better be immaculate, because that's the only way you're really gonna get some decent sales, is if you have a concise vision and it's easy to explain and it's got teeth to it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm wearing the T-shirt. Like they did this T-shirt, Star Wars Celebration 2022. Case in point, Kieran Gillen developing this character in the Darth Vader run, and then spinning her off into her own run. I mean, that was the no-brainer, because what Gillen was able to do with her, and then forget who did the second run, but the name's on the tip of my tongue. But then Alyssa Wong, taking Shelley to the heights. And
was it
then
Greg Pak? No, it wasn't.
No, Greg Pak was
doing
the
main...
Vader. Greg Pak did the Vader. I forget who. It's the middle. It's the middle child of Dr. Aphra runs. But
yeah,
I mean, Alyssa Wong's run is the best of the three. I'd say, and it's great way of putting it. It's they gave us a separate proposition of here's kind of her hero turn.
Yeah.
Putting her through all these the Ascendant and what's the Ascendant's controlling thing? I forget what it's called. I have it on again. I'm bad with names of these things because it was a weird, obscure story point, but that's perfect for Aphra, right? And then now it's kind of interesting, this whole daggers, finding artifacts, whatnot. But they didn't, like, Cherish Chen didn't give enough time for deeper character exploration, because that's always what Shelley is really about.
Yeah.
So I was saying, if she'd introduced her sister into issue 1, maybe that would have lit things up better. I don't know. But it was already a hard sell to say just because it's the next Aphra book, it's going to do well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I think we could. I got the T-shirt. I love Shelley, but be okay with a break for now, especially since Alyssa brought her to such a height. Let that sit for a bit. So that's my thought there. I do want to come back a little bit, just quickly, kind of talking about now for Marvel and for Dark Horse. What are the for Marvel? What, given the shakeup, given that they're primarily with Penguin, the challenges, but the opportunities. Sounds like challenges are folks are still trying to get their books from Diamond, and it's kind of split. Their opportunities, I mean, what I'm hearing you saying is that their graphic novels and their single issues are all under one roof. Not sometimes literally or not, but that, and also I mean, they have their own digital platform, but where has this been able to benefit where is this relationship with Penguin being beneficial in a way that the relationship with Diamond might not have been?
So one of the better parts about having a place like Penguin in the comics market is they are forward thinking. They already have the structures built. They are the biggest book distributor in the States, and they have the methods and the means and frankly the capital to maintain this. And something in particular to keep in mind is that there isn't really money in distributing comics single issues. The price point is very low, and the damage is far easier than it is of like a bound book. And so they are a high risk product that you're not really making a whole lot of money on for the effort that goes through. And so Diamond existing was almost a necessity for the industry until some other outroads could be found, because a person wasn't going to start a distributor of single issues of I keep wanting to say perennials, but that's periodicals. Right. It's just not a great business idea right now. But the I would say now 3 main distributors of comics. You have Lunar, who needs a volume of comics to come out to survive in their business that generates more money, which is instocktrades.com and discountcomicbookservice.com. They're all the same company, separated out for obviously various reasons. Like you don't want your distributor to go directly with a store when that distributor needs to go to other stores, type of thing. So there's like firewalls built in and all that kind of stuff. But Lunar doesn't start up and doesn't take on DC and Image and a whole bunch of other comics publishers if they don't have a business that requires that volume to move through, so that they can make actual money, say. With Universal here in Canada, they actually bought a part of Diamond in the bankruptcy. Their gaming group called Alliance. Not to be confused with the company Alliance that tried to buy Diamond. It's a long story. But they bought their gaming outfit in the States, and because Universal was and is a gaming distributor that started wholesaling comics to their game stores clients as sort of a value add, like, and we can also provide this to you, unlike other sort of gaming offering people, because a lot of the game stores weren't hitting minimums to get comics in at a decent rate, basically. So they had an extra reason to kind of do comics distribution as a value add for another part of their business, which makes more money. And Penguin Random House. The math of comics doesn't quite work out for graphic novels to come out without the single issue periodical kind of like subsidizing the production along the way. If you don't have these little bits of money coming in during the production, you're putting out a whole bunch of money and then you have to charge more for the end product, basically. So the way that comics are set up now for Penguin Random House, what they were looking at is, if we provide a place for single issues to be distributed, then we can bring more publishers under our umbrella to sell their graphic novels. And so they've got Marvel, they've got IDW, they've got Dark Horse, they've got a whole bunch of graphic novel publishers, including like their own line of graphic novels and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's a means to an end. They're a business that had the capital to get into this business, but the end goal wasn't essentially to like, and distributing single issue comics is going to make us so much money. It was, this step gets us to the point where we start making more money.
Okay, so definitely supplementing Penguin. I mean, for Marvel, is the main benefit that it's just more reliable, or
right?
I mean,
I started off on that and kind of tangented a little bit.
No, it's a good tangent.
Saying all this to say that Marvel has a good partner that is clearly invested in the single issues happening, so that by default that Star Wars line ends up having a home, and there's not sort of like a worry of like, they're gonna wrap up doing distribution, because again, there's not money in distribution. So I would say that them being in line with Penguin Random House really does give a far more solid ground than I would say almost anywhere else that's doing it, in terms, because this is Penguin is the company that is in the books industry.
Yeah.
They want that content, and it's not a value add to different parts of their business, right? It's sort of like the lifeblood that feeds the system that then kind of blooms out. And so I would say because of that, the Dark Horse, the Marvel, the Star Wars books where they're currently licensed at, they have a good lifeline that can be reliable, and so you can make plans and do things like that.
True.
I do think part of the reason why this current line also might have been struggling a little bit, and why some of these books are maybe having shorter runs than initially would have been thought, is because of the disruption that Diamond caused, because numbers did go down across the board when Diamond went into bankruptcy. in part because there was honestly a bunch of stores who were like, if Diamond's done, then I'm done. And then there was a whole bunch that there was like this interim time where they're figuring out how to get their books, and with all the scrambling, one, it costs stores more money to kind of like redo all their systems. And so then the stores start spending less, and then they're not having as many shelf copies of things. And so in that transition period, there's little stressors everywhere that really ends up causing a lot of folks who hadn't sort of like been in front of how these things might have gone. Then they're looking at like having to tighten their belts and ordering less of certain books, because there's a lot of stores who are still using Diamond's point of sale system, even as sort of like warning signs were going on. Our store moved away from their point of sale system a good 5 years ago because we were like, oh man, like, especially when they shut down initially, I think that was our cue to be like, we need something else now. We cannot be relying on this, because like, what if they're gone tomorrow, type of thing. And a whole bunch of people were using all of that, and so they had to get new point of sale systems. And so then again, they're spending all this money to refigure out that, and they don't have as much time for orders, they don't have as much money for orders, and so it affects everything down the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great insight, Joel, kind of having the tongue-in-cheek version of that. That, I mean, because we always, the folks at Marvel and the folks at Lucasfilm, they're primarily seeing are the numbers, right? And making decisions based on numbers, and they understand the reasons behind the numbers, but maybe those reasons don't really matter so much in terms of the decisions about what runs that they have. I don't know about the tariffs, but that's okay. That's funny.
So weirdly, tariffs were going to be a problem.
Well, because they're in Montreal, right?
Well, there was still going to be a problem, and especially Marvel actually is one of the only companies that produces their comics primarily in the States. It has them printed in the States. Yeah. I contest that is why they are of poorer quality, because there aren't as many printers in the States that specialize in single issues, and the ones that do aren't as good as the ones that are up here in Montreal. Honestly, interesting. There's a reason why that comics are printed in Canada, and there's a reason why one of the main distributors, publishers, Transcontinental, were printers, I should say. When tariffs were being threatened, they actually went to a bunch of the publishers who print with them and said, if the tariffs did kick in, that they would eat the cost of the tariffs instead of the publisher having to eat it. And their idea being that, like has happened, those have always been walked back almost immediately, if they even went through for single issue comics and periodicals. So weirdly, that it hasn't really affected books and whatnot, outside of it does cost more money to print books these days. Yeah.
I mean, thinking of like just paper quality and paper stock. I mean, we have more I don't know if this is having anything to do. We have more forests here. Hopefully we have ways of replenishing those forests, because
we have laws. Yeah.
Yeah, we have laws. Well, yeah, right. We have laws. We are a country of laws sometimes. But yeah, thinking about why there might be another reset coming up in 2026 of Star Wars ongoing and whatever else they do, and why these current runs are coming to an end. I mean, is it a matter of now that things are starting to settle down, that the logistics system, the distribution system seems to be a bit more predictable, that jumpstart a new run, that start a story fresh, get people in there, that'll be able, the stores will be able to sell them more and market them more, and it'll come to bring things back to normal. I do
think that we're going to see some announcements at New York Comic Con. Marvel has typically used kind of the January, February, March period to do their Star Wars launches, their big launches. That's when they first started. Honestly, right around when the store started.
Right, January 2015.
Yeah. When they first started that era. That was all January, February, March. And if you guys are seeing, some books just sort of stopping around this time, and like you said, the publication of the trades, I could definitely see them using January, February, March as kind of like their new fresh refresh.
Yep. And then October being this lead time to announce it. Well, I guess, I mean, Mark Guggenheim, did he announce Jedi Knights? Was I in the room last year when he announced Jedi Knights? I'm just, you wouldn't know that, but I'm just kind of wondering, was I there when he announced? I remember asking about what this Jedi Knights book is. Is it New York Comic Con 2024? Of course, all that, coming in January 2025 was this 10th anniversary. So, January 2026, Star Wars #1, written by who knows. We'll see. Maybe kind of a last question then. I mean, kind of overall, kind of maybe the question you were asking me too is in terms of keeping this integrated canon together and having to, I mean, just thinking about how Penguin Random House Worlds, I mean, they have all the novels too. So, I guess there's two questions there in terms of a Star Wars fan. Does this shake up overall? What kinds of challenges will it pose for completists like me? And what kind of opportunities do you think it will pose?
I honestly think it really comes down to if they've got a purpose for the line. It's something that I've been seeing in comics lately, that you can point to that some of the biggest success points in comics right now are books that have concise ideas that kind of work together. So you have the Absolute line in DC, huge. The Ultimate line in Marvel, huge. The Energon line that Skybound is doing, huge. That's something that could be easily replicated with the Star Wars line. But you do sort of need a central idea unifying it, because I think treating the story as a bit of a more shared universe thing, because like I would say even they've done the crossover bits, but those big crossovers got people tired. They got people exhausted on the line. And so what they really need to do is just sort of like get a line of 3 to 4 concise ideas, make sure that they really kind of like set in those ideas, and then kind of maybe play with it that way later. I don't know. Yeah,
as in, so you have like kind of what they did between, for the last 10 years. Like you have your ongoing with the big 3, with Luke, Han, Leia, ended up being Lando, really part in that too. And then you had your Vader comic, and then you had some other ones in and around, and your Afro comic and your Bounty Hunters. Maybe, I mean, Ethan Sack's Bounty Hunters, the prequel, get Jango Fett there. I can see them almost replicating that then, just because I mean, what Star Wars, the nice thing that Star Wars has this built-in thing of saying, well, here's an idea, get Luke from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. Here's an idea, get Vader from Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi. Get Vader from, I mean, this background is A New Hope, but get Vader from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. I mean, that's my favorite comic book of all time, is Charles Soule's run.
What I would like to see, and it kind of pulls off of what Joel Davis was saying a little bit earlier, bets on that prequel comic, High or Low. A book per era.
Interesting.
About hit here. Have a focus on sort of like the characters and ideas in there. And then if you really wanted to do something buck wild, you have those all kind of running. And then sort of like do a time crisis.
Yeah. Was it Vector? Was it Legends? Yeah,
exactly.
Like
and have those kind of smashed together. Like, could you imagine how big that would be for the comics?
Yeah.
Because you can't do that in movies. So why don't you do something wild like that?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to make sense in Star Wars because that's the only thing. It's one of George Lucas's rules is no time travel. But there's the World Between Worlds. There's the guy in, I mean, that's the thing with Vector. I was just thinking about that. That's that Legends book I've read a bit of because it was kind of connected to Dark Times or is this crossover. Well,
it popped through all the Dark Horse series near the end.
Yeah. I mean, a brilliant example of that was when you had the 2017 Darth Vader run and you had the 2015 ongoing run going on at the same time, and you had that's what it was. You had the Vader run, you had Vader on Mon Cala, and you had I think the Rebels on Mon Cala and something like that, and you had King Lee Char going with both of those. It was this weird, they could do something like that where like pick up the story 20 years later, something like that. Joel would like some Aether Prime. There we go. Again, there are possibilities for that. It's true. So I that would be interesting. I'm all about let's have, I mean, we have the novel. I mean, let's have the Anakin Obi-Wan. Oh man, Senator Mon Mothma. That'd be something else in that same area, also running along there. Yeah, who knows? Ray comic, be interesting. When Joel in comments, when would you want that set? Is the question. Before or after the sequel trilogy or during? Because I mean, another thing we've wondered is, this year that Charles Soule is covering now in Legacy of Vader, is that going to be? Are we also going to see the heroes, good guys, whatever, the main characters, what they're up to in this time?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we have Resistance Reborn, the novel, which is that, but I mean, that's the thing is it's so much. Yeah, this was what Joel was saying before, after between that in that year. So yeah, that'll be a good idea, and then it'd be distinct enough, and then find some good way to connect them. Yeah, there you go. My last question, we've touched on it a little bit. Near Comic-Con, any kind of Star Wars predictions for Star Wars, and then predictions for whatever?
I truly do think that like you're gonna see them map out the next year. Some announcements there, and outside of that, like the net's wide open for them at this point. I probably wouldn't revisit the two eras that they covered extensively already, unless you have something unique that you want to do in that space. But yeah, outside of that,
I hope so. I hope they give us some sort of plan. That's another thing about this last 2 years. Like I kept saying every episode of this podcast, what's next? What's next? What's next? Turns out they didn't fully know, I guess. There you go. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore because, again, I was in the room and I was hoping they'd announce it then, and they didn't. So here's hoping. I don't know, any kind of grab bag, anything near Comic-Con. What are you kind of hoping comes out of that, even from Marvel, from Detective Comics, whatever.
Detective Comics, yeah.
That's my pejorative, by the way. That's when I'm like, I'm a Marvel guy. It's called Detective Comics. DC, or even like Marvel Cinematic Universe and MCU and DCEU and all that?
I don't know. The trick, and this is like my kind of publisher brain thing, and it's one of the reasons why I find that they use January, February, March to essentially they almost use Star Wars to be the interesting points in the new year, because for them, at the end of the day, like they're still licensed books, right? And so their stronger, say, sales efforts and focus need to be on the stuff that they actually own. And so Marvel and DC often kind of hold off on their big launch ideas until April.
Right.
And so you might see a couple things announced for like Marvel DC mainline, but generally speaking, they're going to be focusing on things like the Star Wars line to sort of like, here's the excitement for these months while we sort of like percolate our stuff in the background. And so you won't see too much exciting announced outside of, I think, you're kind of like Star Wars and all that kind of stuff, but you'll see hints of things that they'll be like, oh, this idea is coming soon, but they won't really elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, the classic thing with Marvel, the summer event, they seemingly do every year now. I mean, well, I remember the whole Doom thing was around at New York Comic Con. I guess it just really came out in the summer. But yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, maybe see what they do overall, and then I think there's a big Marvel like Hall H style for MCU, so be pretty curious. Just want to say hi to Tyler, Comicraft's Tyler Smith, works on all the Dark Horse books, so also an industry insider there. There you go. Yeah. All right. I think that about does it. Any kind of last thoughts, last comments?
No, this has honestly been a lot of fun. I like talking about this, and I haven't honestly done a stream myself for a little while, so it just feels nice getting back to it. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome on any time, especially if you're keeping up with the books, and it's been fun. I will get to say released this week was Tides of Terror #2 and Hunt for the Falcon. Again, check out Chris Abbott's channel check out Star Raptor for his recaps of those. Releasing next week is Legacy Vader #9. So Hunt for the Falcon. So next week we're going to talk about Hunt for the Falcon #2 and Legacy Vader #9. Joel is going to be coming on for that, and we're going to talk all about Star Wars comics and novels, etc. at New York Comic Con. Get the lowdown from Chris, and then we'll talk on Tides of Terror #2 the following week. So catch up there. Brandon, what are you looking forward to in any of these books?
I'm honestly still I'm really engaged with Legacy of Vader right now, of course. I think it is the strongest book that they have right now. And it's telling an interesting book, so I'm interested to see kind of like where that ends up.
Yeah, I mean, and Hunt for the Falcon, it's a little 5-issue, right? But yeah, Legacy of Vader, it's the jam. It's going strong. So yeah, look forward to that. All right, that about does it. Brandon, thank you so much again for coming on, for your time on a Wednesday night. I know you got your staff handling the polls, but really appreciate you taking the time on a Wednesday to chat about the comics industry and your expertise and sharing that. Where can they find you on the internet? Where can they find you in person? As I always say, go to your local comic book shop. If you're in the Edmonton area, check it out. Where can they find you? What do you want to plug?
Yeah, we're on the west end of Edmonton here. Online all the time at variantedmonton.com. Socials, wherever we're still active, which is I would say Instagram, Blue Sky. Gonna wind up doing some more TikTok soon here, and Facebook. You can find me on the internet at Soupy Toasterson. That is the foodstuff soup, the letter Y, and though you have a toaster, who is your precious son.
There we go.
And that's where you can find me.
There you go. Always a funny funny handle there. Yes, food stuff soup. There we go. You can find you can find my personal Instagram MNEUG1138. That's also my Blue Sky and my Threads. Mostly active Insta stories about Taylor Swift these days is what I'm doing. My personal Twitter NEUG485, although don't know how active I guess I'm a bit active on that. And of course, down below the Underworld Discord server, from the Tractor Beam, at the tractorbeam.biscuit.social, as I like to say, and at the SWU. And then this Monday on the Ion Cannon podcast, we're taking a break because I'm on Thanksgiving, and so Joel gets to celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving down in California if he wants. There we go. But then Chris, Joel, and I will be right back at it next Wednesday, and then of course back in the normal schedule Monday and Wednesday. So Legacy Vader number 9. Go to your local comic book shop. Of course, they are on digital, but support your local brick and mortar shops. And come back next week for Hunt for the Falcon and Legacy of Vader and our New York Comic Con recap. But that does it for the Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Until then, happy reading.